Hello everyone. I am Naveen, co-founder of co-living and co-working space under one roof called Urban Nomads. We are operational in Pune. I have Mayur with me as another moderator. He is the founder of co-working space Nomad Gaon based in Goa. We welcome our panel members who run their ventures related to physical co-living spaces or online software platform for co-living spaces and co-working spaces. So we have first panel member, Christine MC Daniel, founder of KNDRD Global Living Software Platform. And she's also the host of Co-Living Code Show and podcast. We have Chetan Hardy with us. He is a global executive at the House Monk and is a co-author of Global Co-Living Report 2019. We have Minnow Schillings, co-founder of the Green Spirit, which basically focuses on sustainability and design thinking. And she's also pursuing research on nomadic entrepreneurship. We have Kathleen. She's a founder of Wanderers Wealth, and she basically provides financial consultancy specifically to digital nomads. We have Mr. Shashikiran Rao, co-founder of Draper Startup Hostel. We have Daniel as a founder of Coco Hub Community, which is operational in Malta. We have Utkarsh as a co-founder of MyHQ Space, which is a listing platform for various co-working spaces all across India. So yes. Now, Mayur, why don't you go with the pursue with the questionnaires which we have?
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, Naveen, and hello all. So my first question to all the panelists would be, how do you see digital nomadism or the remote work cultures evolving? So I think, Daniel, you can start and then we can move on.
So yeah, hi. First of all, just to give a short intro, we started in 2016. Back then it was not called co-living, it was just like a digital nomad house called back then. And it was a pretty elite group of people, like super small, like my gut feeling, whatever, 3,000 people in Europe. Everyone knew each other. And I just think the term digital nomad will fade and the average Joe will basically replace the digital nomad. Like the father who is employed with the big corporations since 30 years, and out of a sudden he has the right to go and explore the world. And I think this is where the big move will come from, not from the nomads itself.
Yeah. Shashi, your 2 cents on this?
So if I understand the question correct, you're asking us what is the role of co-living and remote working post-COVID, am I right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, thanks guys for getting me on board. My name is Shashi. A quick introduction. I'm one of the co-founders at what is called the Draper Startup House. Draper Startup House sort of is sits at the intersection of hospitality and productivity, if I may call it, where we sort of have about 10 spaces all around the world, and our idea is to create communities and ecosystems for entrepreneurs and creators all over the world and then connect them. We are backed by a venture capital network called as the Draper Venture Network, which is a Silicon Valley based fund and a venture network. We manage a $2.5 billion asset class all around the world in about 60 different countries. So I think there are two different points here, right? One is what happens to the co-living and what happens to remote working. They're two different, for me, industries in general, and they're very, very different in their behavior overall. So if I were to sort of take a shot at remote working, I think, this has been one of those coincidences. While the infrastructure has been in place, the movement has been in place, the people have been trained enough, the costs have been getting high and high. So because of all of those reasons, I see that remote working is definitely going to be something that will take off a lot in the near future. And why? Could be mostly because governments have to cut down on costs. Some of the businesses that we are looking at, which is in the space of commercial real estate and stuff like that, are going to start taking a big hit. In the next 12 months to 24 months, companies will have to start trimming down fat, saving a lot of money, extending their runways. So all the unnecessary expenses which could be avoided that has come out of this situation will be avoided. So if that is something that we all look at as a potential outcome, then people can work from wherever they want to work from. And from that point of view, there are two cases for people who work from wherever they work from. One is people will sit at home and work from there. That's not going to change. And there are people who are nomadic and who always wanted to sort of work from different places and wanted to have the freedom to be, living in any part of the world that they want to live in. So those kinds of people will still sort of find new ways to get out and do it. But my guess is that they might all be forced to do it very locally. For a digital nomad, local market is very different to a small business sitting out of a neighborhood, because for a digital nomad, localization means maybe their entire country or wherever the borders lets them be and work from. So having said that, you might see a lot of domestic, remote movement happening. I don't know if they will call themselves digital nomads or what, but these are my two thoughts, 2 cents.
Thanks, Shashikiran.
I would actually add to that the word which can be sort of used is more distributed workforces than sort of nomad. So I think earlier, let's say a lot of the generalization was nomad was used to a lot of freelancers or individual workforce. But now you'll see a lot of companies also pushing out for remote working or distributed workspaces or distributed work teams. So that's the sort of trend which you'll see, where you might just be an entire team of 10 would be in a separate area, like a separate city altogether, and might meet once or twice a week or once or twice a month. So it'd be somewhat similar to that culture, and people will be more at home, and obviously spaces close to their home than anywhere else.
Thanks, Utkarsh. Mino, what are your thoughts on this?
What you just said is absolutely right. Like, we focus with remote working, we often talk about like digital nomadism, even though that in the research I did, most people don't see themselves as digital nomads at all. They don't really feel comfortable with the term. Like, I've heard slow nomads, nomadic entrepreneurs, just slow travelers, but really the term digital nomadism as in fast-paced traveling and working at the same time. I don't see a lot of people, a lot of talk about it anymore, and I also don't think it's sustainable. As in, you can't keep it up for a very long time because it takes a lot of effort to both work and travel. And Makimoto already said it, like in 1997, that remote working and the ability to work via your laptop, you can either be the ultimate traveler or the ultimate couch potato. And I think so far we maybe focus a little bit too much on the travel part. And in remote working and co-living and co-working, we should also incorporate the couch potatoes and offer the services that they need. Yeah. So in that sense, if it's gonna develop, I think we should look at it both. Thank you.
Thanks, Mino. Chetan, off to you.
Hi everyone. There are two things which I would like to point out here is, first, we need to consider the co-living completely separate from the nomadic culture. And coming to the co-living part, already the profits are very thin for all the operators who are operating right now. With new norms coming in, they'll see one-time setup cost going up. And that's one thing. See, the cost of running any co-living is going to be a bit high. And for example, if you're looking at countries like India, where sharing spaces is more norm, there also people will start owning only single rooms. So again, your ROI is going to come down again. But good thing is that a lot of these unorganized operators are going to go out of business if they don't follow the norm, because a lot of places where you just see that you can take the space if you want, or else you can leave, even though I know my place is at very high demand. That is not going to work out. You need to provide certain norms for people to actually take your space. So there has to be like social distancing norms that have to be followed. So all this new regulations have to be put in place for you to actually sell it to the new the tenant who's going to come in the coming future. That's second. And moving to the nomadic culture, of course there was an existing crowd who used to follow this, but now with everyone coming up with, okay, it's easy for you to like actually work from home, not everyone is going to move to like everyone is not going to follow the traveling dream. Maybe what they'll do is they'll just move a bit outskirts of the city, because of course a lot of people still have to like meet up once in a week or once in a month. That is going to happen. And also when it comes to the co-working space, I think a bit of, what do you say, co-working is going to see a bit of a dip is what I'm feeling, because right now every co-living operator is actually working on a model where they will be able to offer working conditions in the house itself. So that is one big offering everyone is actually working on. So that's what I feel about right now. Let's see how it turns out. Back to you, Mayur.
Great, Chetan.
I muted myself. So Kathleen, it's your turn now.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I was myself a digital nomad for almost 2 years, and I agree with what Minu said, that a lot of digital nomads don't actually like to call themselves digital nomads. There's freelancers, there's coaches, entrepreneurs, location independent business owners. So I think the terminology will change a lot, especially if remote workers are going to take over massively. And I also think that the demographics will change, and that services should be adapted in that sense. That maybe whilst digital nomads in the past were a lot of people in their late mid-20s till late 30s, now maybe we'll see a rise of people in their late 30s to up to 50 years old who will see potential in taking up the remote, being in the remote workforce and being able to work from other places, whether that's within their own countries or whether that's internationally. That's yet to see. But I also think that that new push that's going to come from remote workers will also be a lot of people that are still employed or contractors, as opposed to the traditional sense of digital nomads who are more like entrepreneurs, small business owners. So we'll see big corporations, I think, that will see a big spike in remote workers, and to be able to adapt to that sort of need will be really important.
Thanks, Kathleen. Christine?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Christine McDaniel, founder of Kindred, which is software for the co-living industry. So I know co-living really well, and I do know co-working pretty well. I agree with what everybody has said already. Great points. I'll just add on a little bit to that. I'm in California, and with San Francisco, obviously these big, beautiful, Apple just spent, I think, $3 billion on their new office space. Google provides meals and all these really cool features and benefits because they needed the best talent. And what I think what is really going to happen, actually another side point, there's people that live in their vans and their RVs that work at Google because there's so many benefits working at Google. There's a gym, there's everything. And so, what's going to happen is those people that used to work in a physical space now have the option to work anywhere in the world. So I think you'll see, like people mentioned earlier, more people that work at corporations having the flexibility to work remotely anywhere in the world. The Wi-Fi and the internet strength around the world has significantly improved. So that helps people move, move around easier. So it's kind of an exciting time. Obviously the travel part is going to take a while to get back. I don't know when they're going to start opening up all these borders around the world. I think every country is going to be different. But once that happens, there's going to be a lot more flexibility, which is exciting to see.
Thanks, Kathleen. Virginia, is Virginia there?
No, she was unable to join because of
Okay.
some urgent work.
Okay. So we'll see a lot of design changes in co-working, co-living places going forward. I think some of you touched upon those points, like Chetan said that the future of co-working or co-working will take a dip. So what sort of design changes or what sort of structural changes you'll see in co-working, co-living industry going forward?
Is it just open for anybody? I have a quick question, sorry, or point. I think co-living spaces, and they're already starting to do this now because of everybody's working from home. And I live in a co-working space here in California, a co-living, and they're going to design more beautiful, comfortable co-working within the co-living. So then you're not having to commute. It's convenient. So that's definitely going to be an addition onto co-living.
I honestly think there will be a lot of technology play, particularly. So I'm actually questioning the role of the word co in the co-working or the living part, to be honest, where I personally believe people will shy away from meeting a lot of people. So the sort of the common areas across will be something where people will be scared of, at least for the coming 1 year. So I'm not too sure of that particular, and I think there'll be a lot more technology in all these spaces to ensure that there is less interaction or less sort of physical meetings between people. So I think that's something that will be across these centers, right from just a facial recognition at the entrance to booking the rooms on the go to not touching the handle. So there are lots of technology parts that will come in, which will actually disrupt the community or the co-part of both the businesses.
Exactly, Utkarsh. So over here, I would like to make a point. Does community is gonna take a backseat in every co-living and co-working spaces? And at the same time, if yes, and what innovative feature all these co-living and co-working setups should come up with, because these businesses shared spaces are explicitly social, and at the same time interaction with many people. So what are the kind of product features we talk about or innovative features we talk about if these spaces wants to be sustainable? When we are talking about if community is going to take a setback, so what are the features these spaces should come up with?
Can I jump in?
Okay. Sure.
So, I'm a strong believer that everything that we are doing is nothing new. All of this has existed for the last, I don't know, maybe 2,000, 3,000 years. We're just sort of applying some old ideas onto some new disruptive, market opportunities. So the one thing that I always go back to and refer when I talk about anything to do with community is, where did this concept even come from, right? What binds a community together? The one clear living example that has stood the test of time for the last maybe 2,000 years is church, and religious institutions. I think I've seen that more happening in church than any other religious institutions. The community concept is basically something that the church gave us, right? And why did they become a community? Because they always had this thing of wanting to coming together and praying. Hence, these churches were the community spaces for neighborhoods. The people come together and praise, to the God together, and that brought people together. I don't think that's going to go away. I think if you look at it from a behavioral point of view, the first thing that's going to happen once when we come out in the new normal is people will become more and more believers. People will spiritually sort of believe more. People will become more spiritual. People will become more religious. Faith is going to take a huge, sort of, if there's anything that's going to go up, it's going to be faith. So communities, I think, are going to live. Communities are going to continue to do what they're doing. They're going to come closer and closer, but maybe they're going to become more and more selective in the kind of communities that they want to hang around with. Instead of spraying and praying, you might want to start narrowing down on the kind of interest that you have, the point of view that you have. You might be, you know, the earlier days, the people who work together, let's say, for example, in Google's case or in Facebook's case, they were all bound by that one corporate vision or a mission. Now, a lot of the people, that whole concept of vision and mission is going to get democratized. And I feel more and more people will start to put in their own vision and mission for their own lives. And there is where I think probably people will start finding their own communities to hang out with. If my mission is to reduce 5 kilos of plastic out of my life, I want to be surrounded by those kind of people. It's not just about my 2 cents.
May I add something here? Because I think Sashi made really, really good points. So basically, I was living with like hundreds of nomads in one house. We started like with a house for 8 people, then 16, and then 400 beds. And I think the biggest problem, or basically our only one, the KPI we had was, are we able to break down the outer shell of a person? If we managed to do this, we were successful. So one nice example was we had an American CTO staying in Malta, and she came like to Malta and she didn't know how to behave. She was super cold and there was an outer shell. It was really awkward to integrate her. And we were like, how can we do this? Because we are really social people. So the thing is, once she was living like in a cave and talking about polyamorous relationships, we knew we did it. And this is what it all boils down to, because we are talking here about co-living, that this is like an industry or something, but it's about life, living. So if we manage to break down the outer shell and bring out the inner personality of someone, because this is what society prevents us to show, okay, then people are happy. And this is what we need to focus on. I think now with this crisis, people realize, oh fuck, there was a lot of, things which we need to challenge. So I think we're heading here in the wrong direction. I don't agree with spiritualism or religion, but yeah, like I see it exactly like Sashi. This is what basically will empower communities. Mm-hmm.
Can I add something to this? So as we see more people going remote or working remotely, there would be a stronger need of community, because when there were 9-to-5 jobs and offices, the community was in the office, right? And I think now a lot of that will shift to co-working, co-living, or whatever shared spaces that will happen, online or offline.
Can I add something to this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I was doing my research, like I talked with a lot of people who identify or who travel, mostly nomadic entrepreneurs. And I looked into all the factors that influence how successful they are and what kind of opportunities they explore, and how they run their business. And it was very interesting to me that most of them pointed out that social capital is the most important thing. So connecting, building communities, and learning from each other and skill sharing. Not so many actually mentioned that they traveled to see business opportunities on the other side of the world or to find capital. It actually all really revolved around communities. And they all pointed out that a lot of co-working and co-living spaces sometimes still miss this, and that it can take some time to get into a community and to get really, like Daniel said, break out the outer shell and really figure out what you can get out of someone and how you can connect and where this sort of friendship or community goes. So I think when it comes to co-living and co-working as well, we shouldn't only focus on the building or the spaces, but as well as like how to really build that community and how to not only get people connected, but also stay connected. because it's really easy to organize a barbecue and let people meet. It's not easy to make friends for life and let people collaborate. And I think we should focus more on that as well.
I sort of slightly disagree. Uh, the view is that, my honest view is that it's not the same digital nomad who's joining remote working right now. It's a person who used to work in a normal job. He's not that, or sort of a adventurous traveler, or sort of a guy who's actually looking at a community. He's a 9 to 5 person, to be honest, and a person who just does his work. Right now, the office has told him not to work at at the office, so he's sitting at his home. Otherwise, he's used to working at his office. So now he's going to now he's at his home. He's tired, so he goes to a place close to his home, or maybe just travels for the weekends to some new place. I think the fear of or the risk associated with COVID, or the fear that's been created or whatever, and the fear cause of which he's not able to go to his office is quite genuine, and that's imprinted in his mind. So from that angle, I think he will limit his interaction to the people he knows of. For example, if his office was in SF and he's now in New York, where his home is, he'll look for his colleagues who are also in New York, maybe, or maybe he'll just make a circle of 3-4 folks, and he'll limit his interaction to them only. Uh, I don't see him sort of thinking of maybe breaking his outer shell, or sort of trying to expand that number from 4 to 10. Because I think that's a person which is very different from what, let's say, the other people we're talking of are. He's not a nomad by nature, or not a nomad by choice. He's a nomad by force, in a way. Or maybe you're saying that he's working in a company by force and now he has that free will. But I personally think he's habituated to his office, so there's a huge change for him, to which it won't be that seamless for him to kind of interact.
Yeah, Kathleen already pointed out something like this, that there are like many different types of remote workers. So now we have maybe the digital nomads, freelancers, coaches, and they need a certain type of thing. And then we have the remote workers. And those are just two target groups, I think. So maybe.
But I think also remote workers don't know what they are looking for, you know, like maybe this is our role, you know, like they think that remote working is you go somewhere and have a physical place, but this is not what people are looking for. This is not the problem we are solving here. We are not solving a hospitality problem. This is the smallest problem we are solving. In the long run, we are solving a bigger problem. So we need to go back actually to the question, which problem are we trying to solve?
See,
yeah. Can I?
Yeah, please, Mr. Shashi.
Thank you. You know, it's a very good point what Daniel pointed out right now. We got to go back to see why this industry started in the first place, right? This industry started not because people wanted to meet other people, because they wanted to save money. They wanted to live in big cities so that they don't have to burn a lot of money trying to have big houses, managing those big properties, trying to put the second room on rent, trying to sort of cut down their cost. This is how the idea of shared living came about, in my opinion. I might be wrong, right? Cities like New York, San Francisco, London, Tokyo, all of these places were getting expensive, and people who were working in an organization, living alone, not having a family, didn't want to go through the headache of renting a place and living, and maybe they couldn't even find one. That's how this thing took off. But then if you look at on the other end, which is on the developer end, or the construction, the people who own the property at that end, the reason why a lot of people chose to go into co-living is because higher yield on their property, where you would make anywhere between 2% to 8% per annum as a yield by selling or building apartments and selling them. Here you could almost make 18% every year. And that could go on and on and on. And a lot of places had a lot of unsold inventories that they converted into co-living spaces. So going back and trying to understand what is the real problem that we're addressing might also give some interesting insights into how the industry should probably go, or rather what could be the opportunity that come out of these situations.
Exactly. Over here, I guess we are talking about Utkarsh's point of view is the transition of corporate professionals going remotely. And then there is a transition of digital nomads and nomadic entrepreneurs or freelancers who have actually, for them it's like 50% travel, 50% work. For them there is no travel, and only the thing is they are left with work. So there are two categories of basket which we are discussing about. So on the same take, I would like to ask Kathleen, what kind of transition digital nomads are going through, where for them there is no travel at all? Like is the relevance of nomad they are losing along with their work?
Yeah, I've always been working from working station out my life, but I've actually topic you like. So they are very inclusive. Now the challenge is going to be how we're going to combine those people who have that sort of view of, whether it's a lifestyle or spiritualism, how we're going to combine those people with the remote workers who were sort of pushed into that direction of taking that sort of new way of working and having to live with that. And yeah, I'm not sure whether we'll see, maybe, because it's maybe going to be a demographic of older people, maybe we'll see co-living, co-working spaces with childcare support or stuff like that. Like, yeah, I'm not sure. And Daniel, I don't know what you think. I'm really intrigued about the whole co-living situation. So
That's a good question. Honestly, I think we have a problem because this whole co-living thing was mainly driven by the interest of investors and not by demand. It started mid 2017, beginning of 2017, and at the same time in India, because in India it's driven by the fact that Indians like a lot of service, So this is really special about the Indian culture, that you guys appreciate service. Americans have a problem, their real estate market is really tight. So it makes sense to set this up. And here in Europe, we started in 2015, the first Nomad House. So we have three different movements here in this group, and they will, come together and diverge again. So it's really hard to discuss this. But yeah, I think we went in the wrong direction too fast because it was driven by investment money. And now this is shut off to a certain degree, which would act as a filter to maybe steer back in the right direction. Because as I said, co-living or living communities, they were there since like 50, 60 years or even longer. This is nothing new. So out of a sudden we are like, oh, this is something new, and we put some nice marketing on this. Of course it works if we attack on the basic needs of humans, but they will figure this out that this is fake at one point. They don't want this. And I think that this crisis will hit as a function as a filter. This is what I wish for. Yeah.
I have a couple points on that. Sorry.
Yeah,
obviously
go ahead.
I sleep, eat, and breathe co-living. I've published a book on it. Obviously in America, like Daniel said, real estate's really tight. But there are some incredible communities that have been built. Well, one's in Europe that started in Europe, the Collective. Yeah, there's a ton of money behind it, but it takes money to build these massive communities with the most amazing events they're hosting. They're hosting them virtually right now. They're keeping everybody in touch with each other through technology, like somebody mentioned earlier. I guarantee there will be even more of a surge into co-living after this is all said and done, because people were isolated. People that lived alone right now are not having fun during this at all. People in co-living are saying time and time again how grateful they are that they're co-living. They're like, oh my God, I have my tribe. We toughed this out together. Again, this is everybody around the world, because I've spoken to a lot of operators, big and small. So yeah, it takes money to take a movement globally to do it right. So yeah, I'm excited about what's happening to co-living. And last point, these big cities, those people that did live alone in these $6,000 apartments in Manhattan, they're probably not going to be able to afford that anymore. So they're going to give up a little bit of privacy to actually live with other people versus leaving the city.
What happens if you get kicked out of your community because you can't afford rents anymore? Out of a sudden, you lose your friends because you have like really, close communities. What happens there?
A couple of things. Well, you're not going to lose your friends just by moving out of the house. I'm an example of that. I moved back into the same house 3 years later, and I stayed friends with everybody after I'd moved. Second, something really magical is happening, and I've heard stories over and over, even in our own home. The people that were making really good money and had saved money offered to help the people that had startups that maybe didn't have enough money to make it through. And I've seen that in other communities, and that's really rad. Like, you wouldn't see that in a normal apartment with Craigslist roommates.
Can I ask a question about the community side and tribe side? Because like I have the feeling more and more co-living or co-working startups, everybody tries to build their own community, and everywhere you go, there is a community for it. And as a remote worker, how can I identify myself into a community? Because all the time I'm going to this co-living, there is a different community, there is different tribe, and it's really hard to handle this because at some point, like, I'm in thousands of communities, so I can't identify myself into only one. So it's an open question. I don't have any answer about it, but that's also an issue for me as a remote worker, that everywhere I go is kind of a new community with different persons, different visions. So yeah, that's my question, how to handle this lot of communities and not be lost into all of this community universe, because everybody is playing with communities everywhere.
But isn't that the best part? You get to be exposed to different communities and different people and different religions. Like, I think that's the most, because myself too, I've lived in a bunch and I've traveled a bunch. That's some of the best part. And, you'll figure out who you get along with and what feels comfortable, and you're right. There's so many different communities with different themes. Obviously you can do a quick video or Zoom with the housemates before you move in and see if it's a fit.
Yeah, exactly. But my issue with this is that, like, a lot of companies are using the community thing in a marketing way with like values and all this stuff. And I have the feeling that it's more, the community part is more like a marketing tool sometimes than real connection with people.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that. Sorry, I jumped in without permission, but I do understand, right? Because one of the things that we started doing, this is not a plug, but this is truly a case of what's happening in a business like ours, is because we decided to keep our spaces very focused to a certain kind of people. Because we also got very lost in this whole, noise about community, because we have to understand that the world is made up of all kinds of people. People are introverts. People don't want to be in communities some places, or people keep jumping in and out of communities because, people are extroverts at some time and introverts at some time. And you become comfortable, you become an introvert. When you're not comfortable, you become an extrovert. So there are a lot of different emotions that are at play when people make these decisions, right? So I feel that going forward, the spaces and probably operators should start focusing more and more on a specific thing, the reason why you started it. There could be a purpose for why you started it. So take that and then, base your entire space around it and try and see if you can attract those communities. People will come in and go out. That's the nature of business. But at least you will have the right kind of people coming in and going out. And those people will at least have customer satisfaction, so to say, because they met the people that they wanted to meet people. Oftentimes I go into a co-living space and I'm sort of meeting people from all walks of life. And, so some people who don't want to necessarily take a lot out of a conversation probably find it very successful or a very happy place to be in. A lot of people who want to take, some stuff out of these conversations, they may probably walk out of it feeling shallow. So you see how the customer experience changes from the need that is driven out of. So if you can design your space on the need and hopefully just talk to 10,000 people who understand that need, maybe your co-living space might end up finding a very interesting place in the universe.
And I think one way to understand what sort of community that place offers, uh, the easiest way would be to go through their Facebook page, or if they have Facebook group, uh, try to figure out what sort of content they put out. I think that will give you a lot of idea about what sort of community they are or they are building.
So, what I believe, there are two motives behind it. The one is, as a business owner, people are driven towards only community. That's why they started co-living or co-working space. And the other side is, driven towards money, investment, ROI. So there are two different categories. And again, as a customer as well, you are driven towards community. You want to live at that particular place because you want to be in community. And the other factor is towards services, towards better lifestyle. So let's move on to the next question. What are the, during this COVID, there are early startups which are facing lot many challenges and lot many operational liabilities. So how do they, close the gap of operational liabilities? So as a co-working space owner or co-living space owner, how do they meet their operational liabilities in some or the other way, or pivot their businesses in such a way that their liabilities are being, and they are able to maintain their neck above the water? So what do you think, Mr. Shashi? How should they pivot their business layers?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Thanks. I think, what are we replacing here? Let's take one case, customer personas in our mind. So let's take one trend being that there's going to be a lot of remote working, a lot of people working remote, a lot of people, distributed workforces and things like that. And let's assume that these are the people who are going into an office environment every day. Now, all of them don't have an office space to go to. And let's talk about what is the value that they were getting out of going into an office, apart from the fact that they were getting paid and they were getting an office space to work out of. There are elements that the office used to give them, which could be, training programs, counseling programs, learning programs, exposure to many other things, job opportunities, colleagues and friends. There are multiple sort of value that one person gets out of by going into an office. Now, which of those can we bring into our co-living spaces and provide those services in these co-living spaces that the offices were providing once upon a time? Right? That's probably the only way you can look at pivoting a business into going into a direction that will cater to the basic human needs still, but which is coming out of office now is going to stop. Bridging the gap between the operational responsibilities versus lack of revenue. I wish I had an answer, because we ourselves are burning cash through these times. Tough decisions every day. Trying to cut our costs as much as we can, right? That's the only thing that we are trying to do. And hopefully once things starts coming into normal, developing our spaces in such a way that we start to fill those gaps which people see from not being able to go to office.
Moving on quick to sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
please
add to
go
that.
ahead, Utkarsh.
So I think obviously during the lockdown, one way is to, obviously, if you say that if you believe you have a strong community, to monetize it in some way, right? Online.
Exactly.
A lot of the people have done monetization of the community right now through online methods, which I think makes a lot of sense. Even personally, we have done that, and that has worked to some extent for us. Uh, and the second is, I think, on a post-lockdown scenario, post when the world opens up, I think, let's be honest, both co-living and co-working were sort of not maintaining the social distancing norms, right? There was they obviously make people, a lot of people stay together. So you automatically, where you, let's say two people were sitting or two people were staying, you have to suddenly bring that down to one, which effectively does mean that your price, if it was X earlier, is now 1.5X or 2X on that per seat or that per bed basis. Will that be the price point which a smaller startup or any of your previous clientele be willing to afford? Uh, Honestly, that's a big question mark. So I do not. I personally think that that will impact the nomadic or the freelance or the younger startup community much more. You will see a dearth of them to a large extent. I think that's one harsh reality as well, which we need to kind of address and solve for, where your prices are suddenly 1.5 to 2x, and the clientele that you were earlier catering to might not be able to afford it.
Great.
I
So
would like to, okay.
yeah,
Now-
Chetan. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I would like to add a point out here. One thing is that, so there is there is a thing called managed offices, which is going to come into this. Everyone who owns an office is now that working from home is going to be a norm. So now he's going to look for people to share the same office, just to like actually see what he's going to do is like, let's say that he has a 40-seater office. Then he may be looking for another 3-4 companies to share the same space. So that's a new entirely industry which will come out of this entirely. So
That's been happening, I think, for a long time. That's been happening for a long time.
No, when it comes to co-working, I mean, right now, people who already had their own offices, they would be looking for this kind of opportunity. So in
That's
that
what
case,
I'm saying.
a
So
company,
there are dedicated apps that are running which help you put your access, just like Airbnb for your workspaces.
okay.
That's been sort of going on, like ride share, right? Office share. That's
Okay,
been happening
okay.
for a while.
Oh, okay. I mean, because we have been seeing that right now happening in Bangalore for a lot of places. So we thought that that is what is going to happen. And co-working companies need to move towards managed office services rather than having their own space where they are actually, rather than taking a space, they can move into a managed space is what one thing I can look at. And the second thing, when it comes to the co-living industry, here, of course, their cost is going to go up because everyone wants to follow the social distancing norms. In order for them to like actually have increased revenue, they can maybe reach out to a one company where all the employees can be put into one place. So they can offer a co-working space as well in that, where everyone can come and have a meeting. So that's a great opportunity that I look at with this.
One quick question which is popping out is, there was a value proposition, Mr. Sashi, if you see, with Draper and with Urban Nomads as well, that we were the only or few who used to offer co-living and co-working spaces under one roof. But do you think that, because of such kind of remote working, and as Chetan pointed out, that you can bring one company over here and provide all the basic essentials, now that value proposition is being losing out in some or the other way, because there are more competitors who are going to jump in this particular space?
Yeah, see, the thing is, competition is always a good thing to have. And then that's also the reason why you need to pick the purpose well enough so that, the purpose has enough space for people to come in. And I think there are a lot of things that are changing right now. Let's assume that you turn out and, create one of our spaces, let's say, Daniel's space, into a new normal COVID-19 accelerator or a think tank or whatever it is, right, out of Malta. There is a spot for everything. There's an opportunity for everything. I don't think competition is going to necessarily be difficult for existing businesses. I think it's good because listen, guys, we are in a situation where there is no competition. There is only coexistence now.
Exactly.
Anybody who thinks about competition is just basically going to lose the game. It's about coexistence. You got to constantly collaborate with other people, and then you got to move forward. So from that point of view, I don't think there will be more and more people coming in. I'll be very happy if they do.
A question for Daniel, who started such space because of community. He was driven towards community, not towards more of a money, and community was as a sign of value proposition. But now, since the space is vacant, lesser occupancy rate, so are you willing to monetize your community?
No, not at all. I think community, first of all, should never ever be commercialized itself. You can provide them services which they can pay for, but we won't end up with a new Facebook for co-living. I mean, this is what will happen. This is what certain people try to do. They try to consolidate the power and energy. I see this happening, and I hope someone else can tackle this from a non-so capitalistic way, because it's about life, first of all. But adding something to the question how to monetize your low occupancy rates right now, I mean, you can just turn your co-living apartments into temporary offices. That's it, you know. So just because most people go crazy at home, so give them like a nice apartment, because anyway we are working from home, but I don't want to work from my home. I want to work from another home. So that's a way how to monetize your empty house right now.
So Daniel, another question to you. You know, you manage a space in an exotic destination by the beach. It's quite touristy.
You too?
Yeah, I do. So how are you dealing with, you know, because for spaces which are in urban areas, the only problem is slowdown in or the social distancing norms and all. But for us, it's like a double attack because the tourism is down, people cannot travel. So basically people are not coming to areas where our spaces are located. So how are you dealing with this this challenge?
Nothing. So basically, I have to say a little bit more to this topic, because we're running like 2 houses on our own. And after the second house, we decided, no, this is not the way how to scale, and this is not the way how to go forward. So we just entered partnerships. So last year, September, we started a partnership with a German real estate company in Malta. And we were really lucky, because we knew that this will happen, and this saved our ass, basically. Otherwise, I would be like an alcoholic now. I would be in debt, and I would be really unlucky. So I'm really, really lucky that we had this decision, because it plays out perfectly. Enter partnerships with existing hospitality businesses, because again, what we're doing here is nothing new. So why waste energy on something which is already there? Partly, not completely. And yeah, so is this the answer to your question?
Daniel, but is this real estate company you partnered with, are they making a profit on partnering with you?
I don't understand the question.
The real estate firm that partnered with you guys to help you, are they making a profit by partnering with you?
I mean, we just sent them people, no?
Yeah.
So, yeah, of
Okay.
course they make profit with.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, again, you're focusing on the community and saying you don't want it, you know, you don't want people to make money off of building community, yet it takes money, obviously, to build community, to do it. So that's why I was just curious.
No, it doesn't take money to build a community at all. First of all, it doesn't take money. It needs the right values and the right energy. We never spend any money on Coco Hub. We have no investment whatsoever. So if you have your values right, people will come.
So Dan,
that's number one. And also, yeah, of course, there is a total commercial operator behind. It's just about efficiency. Because if you need to also spend money on marketing and create the bubble around this co-living, you waste so much energy, and it all boils down to the fact how often do nomads have to wake up in a month to, you know, fuel this inefficiency. This is how I see it.
I don't agree. I think everything has a monetization and everything has to earn profitability. I think even your time is equal to money. So if you're not considering the marketing money, you need to value the time that you're putting in terms of interacting, which has a equivalent constant in terms of the money, or in terms of the money you would have earned not doing this outside in the market. So everything has a quantitative metric, which does make sense over a certain point of time to make more long-term sense. Yes, in the short term you can have a lot of other metrics, but in the long-term a quantitative metric is always necessary for any business.
I think that we should separate two things. We should separate the beds and the desks and the community itself. So you have the real estate, you have the property where someone sleeps, eats, and does everything.
Yeah.
And then you have the community. And with the real estate building falling away, which you're charging for, of course, we're not going to just provide free beds for everyone. That's not sustainable. We can't do that.
Now we have a participant waiting on for quite a while. Let him go and take a question. Yeah, please. Mr. Sharad, please go and ask a question to the panel.
Hi, this is to all the panelists. Now, I've heard words like digital nomads and then, occupancies and so on and so forth. But somewhere I missed out on the word humanitarian. So, what as, you know, co-living or a co-working space, how would you go humanitarian in terms of helping people out? And forget the business side of it, given this particular situation.
I would like to take this point. So I've been talking to a lot of operators, and everyone has been trying their level best to like actually help out a lot of people. So a lot of, let's just say that at least 20 to 30% people have actually lost their jobs. And what the owners or the operators are trying to do is they are trying to work out rental agreements with the landlord to get some rental discounts, and the same they will offer
Uh,
to the
I'm
and
sorry, I'm not sure who's speaking, but then I just wanted to understand from a very a layman perspective as to, let's say, uh, people who do not have an organized job, people who do not have an organized job,
So,
people who do
Sharat,
not.
just to kind of put it a bit
Yeah,
simply,
Utkarsh,
right?
go.
So the first perspective for any person is to save his boat, right? That's the first idea that every person has. And being very honest, a lot of the current spaces that living and co-working are not getting any revenue these 3-4 months. So they are looking at, first is their survival, right? Then the second perspective is if they are able to address their survival in terms of having lower costs, they want to translate that to the customer as well. So what people do is if their, let's say, costs are zero, then maybe you don't charge any cost to the customer itself. But if your charge cost is 10, you have to in a way transfer that to the customer as well. So the perspective is maybe I will slightly differentiate it from the perspective that the perspective is not to really earn a profit in this quarter or maybe in the next 2-3 months, but the first perspective would be to survive, and the second perspective would be to ensure that we can help out our community as much as possible. If you don't survive, you're not helping the community at large or in any which way. And then obviously you can do a lot more things. So once your survival is sort of sorted, then you obviously work out different benefits. You have a lot of free time right now. You don't have customers in your space. Engage them in whatever way online and help them out in whatever way possible. You can float if someone is looking for a job. You can put that on LinkedIn. You can put that on your app if you have an app. There are 10 ways where you can kind of get that done. But right now, a lot of the focus for a lot of people is survival, and I'll be very honest about that.
And I
Coming,
think, I would like to add something to it, Sharad. So I think good communities are where it's not just you uh, who's helping the community, but it can be the other way around as well. So, for example, when COVID happened, a lot of our community members said, "Okay, I know that we know that this is a difficult time for you. We really feel at home in your community. So let us know if we can help in by any means." And I think in terms of help building good communities, the help flows both ways, and it's nice to see that happening here.
yeah, moving on to the next question, coming survivability, where there is a key factor over here. So that question directly goes to Mr. Shashi and to the others as well. How, because I see Draper Startup House has a a tagline and vision of helping out and reaching out to the entrepreneurs. So how will entrepreneurship will develop post COVID-19, and how are you trying to support the ecosystem? And at the second question, and do you still consider this as an opportunity to get stakes at early stage startups who have the similar vision, because their survivability is one of the factor as well.
Similar vision as ours,
Yeah,
or
in terms of product and in terms of community as well. Like there are various early stage startups who focuses on the community development, and at the same time they want to create the culture of startups as well. And so but survivability because of they don't have backup of big investors, and at the same time they don't have cash reserve, and maintaining a neck over the water has become difficult for them. So do you think this has an opportunity as well to, to push them or to kickstart them and let them focus on one domain, and you focus on the some or the other premium domain, and just take a stake on it, take their stake, some or the other part of the stake, and push them? So coming on to the developing the ecosystem part,
So this is
where
with
Tripper is
context with co-living spaces and co-working spaces, is it?
yes, yes, like
Okay.
co-living and co-working.
So how are we helping people? So a player like ours has responsibility of not only doing things to keep ourselves alive, but also go out and do things that will help our community stay alive. So that means we've sort of stuck in a double whammy. So we're working on both angles. Lucky for us, we just sort of got through a deal, and then there is some runway for us, and then we sort of have ways to keeping ourselves alive. So now we've sort of started putting a focus on helping the community. What have we done? We did a 24 hours follow the sun conference just 1 week after the lockdown happened, to bring in a lot of entrepreneurs from 9 different countries around the world, and give them some very quick overview on how to deal with the situation right now. And these are the people who came from all our venture networks around the world. We have now moved away from not only physical things, but also digital things, to sort of put out some touch points for our communities to stay in touch, and putting them in touch with people who are facing funding difficulties, giving them access to investments through debt and through banking mechanisms and through so on and so forth. But you also have to understand that we are working in 6 different countries around the world. It's not like only focused on one single specific region. So for us, being able to create something very, very big for all of them is very difficult, because we're a small player ourselves. What we have also done is we started something called as a Solopreneur Lab, which is essentially training a lot of individuals who are gig workers or people who are going out of jobs, to sort of understand the strengths that they have and how can they pivot the existing position that they are in into a gig economy or into a freelancer economy, to keeping themselves alive and keep that revenue coming in. So it's about 4 weeks boot camp, goes on, sort of about 25 people have registered from 6 different countries around the world, and all of them have very different kind of skill sets, but different markets as well. We're trying to see how we can help them stabilize, and we continue to do those kinds of programs going forward. And we're also looking for some of the partners and players who are doing what we're doing. And if culture is a fit, and if the market is a fit, and if the team is something that we really love, we are also doing some acquisitions in this space right now, because we get a space, we get a new region, and the business gets to sort of stay alive. So these are the few things that we are doing right now to help businesses around our business.
That's great. What's your take, Kathleen, on this? Sorry, Christine, what's your take on this?
I think
so.
Christine
Kathleen and Christine have left. They mentioned on the chat.
both of them had to leave. Christine.
Yeah. So coming on to Chetan, you have co-authored global co-living report. So do you see any fundamental shift happening in co-living industry now, comparison to small versus big, and urban versus tier 2 cities?
First thing is that when you look at, so in India, co-living was a concept way before it has been launched. As Daniel had mentioned before, we have something called as PGs. These are spaces which is generated by a lot of people. It's very quick, actually share spaces. Even 4 people can stay in a space. Of course, the population is so huge, so we need such kind of solutions. So from there, what happened was people, and these guys was just providing space. And from there, the actual co-living concept where people are actually providing you more services, that's what came out. And now what is going to happen is all these places who were just providing space, not following any kind of, the hygiene is not that great, or there is no design, or the norms are not being followed. All these are going to shut down if they are not prepping up their space as per the new, the current pandemic situation. If that is not happening, that's a huge opportunity for the existing co-living operators, That's about the tier 1 cities. And when it comes to tier 2 cities, or maybe you have these holiday destination, there is going to be a huge opportunity for co-living operators to actually go and open and start giving out the uh, for targeting the people who want to actually who wanted to become a travel nomad and all, but of course their job didn't allow. So for those people, they can actually come and place themselves, saying that you can even travel, maybe have a bunch of hostels or co-living spaces, and you can travel and go to multiple spaces as well. So that is what the new opportunity that I can see out here.
I would just like to add to this. I think after like so many people are going to remote working, location is becoming irrelevant now. And the kind of people we used to see in tier 1 cities and metros, like millions and millions of people, that's not going to be the case in the future. People are going to go back to their hometowns, or disintegrate in a way which gives them more higher quality of living. And another thing, I think it's a bit far-fetched, but even the Hyperloop is here. I think they started this, they did this, one of the stretch they have completed in LA. So the distance again is gonna, cut short to a big time, like 2 hours and 10 minutes. You could stay somewhere between the mountains and come to a city like a Mumbai for a job. So the landscape, definitely, the whole humanity is gonna reshape itself, how they live and work. And definitely the co-living spaces which are coming in just tier 1 cities, it's going to change. And it's going to disintegrate, I think, for good, for everyone's good.
I have to add two things here. So first of all, I think, in India, you are still maybe 1 month behind the curve of the COVID curve. I think you see it a little bit too extreme. Right now in Germany, it's opening up again, and we have the data in. So this is just one thing. Maybe it won't be that extreme, first of all. So don't spend all of your energy thinking about this, because we don't know for sure how we will end up. And the second thing is about the added value. Or so I think if you stay with someone in a house, with the community leader in a house in a particular area for 1 month, you build a lot of trust, because maybe you see each other half naked running around, and you build, this is what you do when you live with someone. So why not use this trust to have a trust base? So in easy terms, someone comes to Malta, and every place has its own things to offer. You can go surfing, or maybe in Malta is a place where you pay a really, really low tax. And if you are a European nomad, you need to pay your tax somewhere, even though you're not living anywhere. You need to do it. Otherwise, you end up in problems. So the thing is, how to find a trustworthy person who could take care of this, of such sensible things. So why not use this trust which you build while you were living with someone in a house, in order to, enter on partnerships? So maybe the community manager or whatever, he can offer services. In this case, Malta, for example, like a tax residency, help with that. And we need to think, which values are we creating? And the biggest value we are creating is trust, while people are staying with us. So how to monetize on this without selling your soul? This is just one thing what I wanted to add. The value of trust.
It's very much true, Daniel. For any person community to balance the monetary part of it, and without like putting it too much on the community, it's something I can totally understand. Balance is hard to keep, and sometimes it's a sticky situation. I think Naveen, you're on mute.
Navin, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was just telling Nakul is a co-founder of Urban Nomads, so he had some questions and points to add on to it. And I guess we should open up for our participants to welcome their questions and let panels take their take their questions as well. So, any questions from the
There
participants?
is a question in the chat.
Yes.
Yogesh is asking, there was a co-living and then there is a co-boat. You spend time building your dream with others on a boat. Why is it really needed and what are your views on that?
Is he talking about Nomad Cruise maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Like I went on that one, so I could elaborate. So I don't really think it's another way of making money. It's definitely a commercial view on co-living and co-working. But how I've heard it from the team as well is that they didn't make a huge profit out of that. It's not a very profitable way of running something. And the founder of it really tried to find again another way to get a community to collaborate and to really connect. And the beauty of doing that on a cruise, besides that it's really unsustainable, is the beauty is that you don't have internet and you cannot leave. So there is no way that you can escape. So you have to connect. So for 2.5 weeks, you're just connecting, you're really building a community. And that makes that even after it, when you leave, you really stay connected with these people. Actually, my business partner I met on the cruise, and a lot of businesses start there. So if you want to like help entrepreneurs connect and start a business, maybe the point is locking them up. Could be.
Great. There is another question which is popping up for you. How can co-living and co-working industry be the agent of change in terms of sustainability and considering the shared economy as a part of it?
What did you say? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
How can co-living and co-working industry be the agent of change in terms of sustainability, considering shared economy as a part of it?
Oh, shared places, like shared venue.
Yeah, shared under one roof. You have two revenue generation model as co-living and co-working. So how that can be the agent of change in terms of sustainability?
Yeah, if we do it the smart way, remote working could definitely be very sustainable and help us a lot. We don't need to commute anymore, of course, and we can share offices, we can share electrical bills, we can be smart about this and help each other out. What I do see is that a lot of communities don't really incorporate yet the sustainability aspect. So where they could do a lot more, as in waste management, recycling. I mean, those are just the basics. On the other hand, the beauty of co-working and co-living is that it's community focused, so you could educate a lot of people. And sustainability, so far, I had a long discussion about this this morning. It's mostly a complex issue. It's an issue of not being aware and not knowing what to do. So I think the most important thing and the biggest role that remote working and co-living and co-working can play in the sustainable transition is educate people and give the right example and hope they pick it up and move to the next community or the next co-living co-working space and try to like spread it and make people really aware in that sense.
One example for this is if we run beach cleanups. So we are all living in one house. There are 16 expats in a Mediterranean island, and out of a sudden there are 16 people in this neighborhood where no digital nomads were before. So this is first of all a shock. Why are they there? What are they doing there? Working with their computers? How is this possible? That's number one. Then if we do a beach cleanup, the local people, they're like, why are the people cleaning our beaches? Just why? So this leaves an impact. So basically you're also like exporting your shared values and culture into a new place without coming there and telling, hey, this is how the world works. So just by doing stuff, others see it. So this is my take
There are
on
a
this.
couple of there are a couple of communities. There are eco-living communities, and they're trying to build up a global network of ecological, like sustainable communities. And what they do is they're really focused on sharing their expertise and sharing knowledge. So someone starts somewhere on eco village, and they try to be self-sustaining. That can be very tricky. I have to learn a lot. Farming is not that easy either. And these communities, they set up and then they share their knowledge with the other communities, and they're all co-living, co-working. And I think to learn more about this, we should look at the existing communities already and at what hostels do. Because there are a lot of communities and there are a lot of venues that are already doing this in a very good way. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to look at maybe other hospitality services or other cultures and see what they do instead of finding it out.
I would just quickly like to add something. I think it is a very, very good point that Minal has made. Eco villages is the next thing. I think the co-living, co-working, sustainability, the whole movement is going towards eco villages, and there is this network called Global Eco Village Network. So if you want to find out how to make free electricity, just go on their website and just go through their FAQs. And there are hundreds of eco villages and new upcoming as well. So there's a lot of knowledge that they share, and I think that is one thing that every one of us can look look to them for some answers.
So here's a question from Mukund, which is about, isn't it possible for co-living operators to tie up with other big brands, both government and non-government in the city, to raise job opportunities for their community? Wouldn't that help the digital nomad's life going on by adding the digital through the job opportunities, and the nomad by helping them sustain themselves in the long run?
I see it the other way around, actually, because nomads don't have problems to find a job if you work in IT.
Absolutely.
It's so. But maybe the local infrastructure had problems with just often it all boils down to inspiration and knowledge. So you can bring something, like in the best case, we would bring 20 people to a rural village somewhere in I don't know, in Africa, and out of a sudden we bring so much energy to this place, so we leave an impact with the people there. So I see it the other way around, that we can use the nomads in order to have a local impact. Yeah.
I would like to add something to that. So I'm working on a project with a couple of my friends to kind of use power of remote work to, let's say, if you're working remotely, we are starting a platform where you can choose to go to a village where internet and everything you will get, and you can do your work. But then a couple of hours a day you can just spend in educating rural youth and people on simple things. It need not be something complicated, like how to use mobile payments or how to use any social media for that matter effectively. So that program will start running from August.
That's
And
great.
you focus on India?
Yeah, for now,
nice.
focusing on India.
It kind of sounds like nomads giving back, maybe.
Yeah, I think I've not seen their detailed program, but this is something we have been working on for.
I really like the idea, because basically you also solve the problem of what happens after the people finished work, because then basically there are two ways. You spend energy on the community and empower them to do things, and you will burn out, or you always run through community managers and they burn out. The second thing is you empower them. So, but like if they would have a social project besides that, or different things where they could work on in the village, this is brilliant, because then you solve this problem. So I really, really like this approach. It's,
I think
it's
places
brilliant.
like India, remote work can do wonders because it is a great equalizer,
Yeah.
because you need not be in cities anymore to make an impact. You can be anywhere where you can stay connected.
Yeah.
Wow,
And I
that's
think
brilliant.
it's very important as well to stay connected to the community, not only to like the community of the co-living, but in general the culture you're immersing yourself in, because we cannot travel the world and work in places and then not actually know those places, the people who are living there. So yeah, very good idea.
I think Mr. Shahzada had a question. He was raising his hand. Okay. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Shahzada. I just wanted to add something to what Mayur said. So I think it's a big problem in India that there's a lot of cultural, economical, educational gap between the rich and poor. So with the idea that Mayur just shared, we won't just be sorting out the urban problems like pollution of bringing people to villages, but also the gap that exists in the rural part of the country and the urban part. So the gap is so. I just want to let the people who are not from India. I see a lot of people from India in this Zoom conversation right now, but I'm just trying to give a perspective to the people who haven't been to India or don't really know what's happening. There's a huge gap. The rich and the educated people, they live in a different world in the same country. The way they see life and how the poor sees it, there's so much difference. For example, there's a New York in India, and then there's this another African small country. So there are like parallel countries which are happening in. So with this idea, what would happen is there'll be a from the top to bottom, there'll be a fall of education. There'll be a fall of resources. A lot of employment would be generated, and the whole journey that a developing country like India is going through to merge that gap. This concept would create a bridge, and the progress would be really progressive after this.
Yeah, that's really. Can I?
Yes, please go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was really interesting what you were saying, and to continue on this, I would like to speak with you about like something. Maybe some of you know it. There is a guy in Indonesia called Thomas Despin, which is the founder of
Hustler Villa.
Exactly, but now is creating something in an island, like about like kind of fields in an island, and is building Reconnect, which is like a sustainable island, and is building bungalows, and there is some investors, but like the thing which is important out of this, and the lesson I learned by following him, is that it's easy to speak about big things at big level and big scale, but I think the best way to build like sustainable and communities, it's also in a small level with small communities. And like what is doing in Indonesia, there is like 5 bungalows, but there is like foreigners coming, and it's also educating the locals to this kind of stuff, to this ecologic sustainable stuff. And I think like the gap between, like you were saying, Shahzada, big cities, small villages, which are completely different, should not be done, because like it's not the same problems. So I think it's easier to solve issues on a small level with like small communities also sometimes, instead of thinking big and having worldwide communities to solving all the problems, because all the small regions, area of a country are different.
Yeah, so what we are, I agree with you. You have to start small, test the hypothesis, make sure that
It's not about testing. It's just about recognizing that a city don't have the same issue with the other city, which is 5 kilometers picture from there. So it's also interesting to keep like the focus on what's happening in your locality. Like for example, in Malta, we take care about Malta. Like we try to enhance stuff in a local view and not like the same, like the big picture.
I think why me and Mayur are on the same page with it, and we are focusing on more on the macro picture is because I've been connected with Mayur, and so he belongs to a small town, and I belong to a small town as well. I think Loic has gone away.
China में रहेगा।
But I'll share it with you guys. So Mayur belongs to a small city in India, and I also belong to a small city in India. But Mayur has been working in the nationwide picture for the last 7-8 years, working with corporates, being connected with what's happening in the country, and I've also been there. So what we could see the contrast so well. I could personally relate to this because right now I was traveling for the last 2.5 years, and I hadn't stayed in my hometown for more than a week. But this is the only time that I've been here for the last 15 days. And just in 15 days, I see so many opportunities where the skill set that I have could be easily taught because it's an alien thing for them. So when I talk, just a little example about technology, 80% of, I live in a small city called Hisar, Haryana, which is in the northwest of India. So for people, technology only means Instagram, TikTok, YouTube videos, or maybe Spotify, or some music streaming, or say Netflix. But they don't. 80% of the people in my city don't even know how to use an email address. That's how bad things are, right? So this is the gap that I'm talking about. I'm sure it's going to take a lot of time. Such big changes happens when we take a small step towards it. But I also consider that having a bigger vision, having a macro picture of what we are trying to achieve, what is our vision towards, what are the changes that we want to bring in the society, has to be seen from a more macro level.
Point well taken, Shahzada.
Yep. Mayur.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Shahzada said what all I wanted to say, how the idea came into my mind and why we are doing this.
It's really nice. I think the only way, like what is missing here is a channel how to communicate this. A lot of people want to do this, but what we are missing out here is how to tell people about it. This is what is missing, and what are the options? You can pay Facebook ads, and then for every nomad you want to bring over to a rural town in India, you spend 50 euros. You can also use this 50 euros and give it right away to people in need. So this is not really efficient. So how to reach out to them? Of course, you can do PR, but then you have a spike for like 5 days and that's it. So how do we have a sustainable traffic, to direct nomads to India? How do we do this? This is the problem we need to solve. Nothing else. Because living in this village, India, costs whatever, 300,000 rupees, That's it.
So
and
approach we are taking is, instead of calling nomads from everywhere, we are partnering with some coding schools where they are teaching coding, and then the students can spend a couple of months in villages kind of applying what they learned, or kind of educating people on other stuff that they know. So instead of wasting energies on trying to find people who want to be in villages, the easiest way is to tie up with
one thing to sum it up, this opportunities are not equally distributed in this country called India. And due to this, making them enable to become a remote worker is quite difficult, and that's the bigger vision of it. How do we cater these opportunities and let all these opportunities distribute equally or among various people, and make them some or the other way remote ready? If Malta can do it, then why can't we? So we have to have bigger vision, like Mayur is telling that teaching them coding and then applying all these. So that is because of lack of opportunities and being unequally distributed. So yeah, and that is something, a bigger change which has to, a lot many people have to join in and make this as a huge force to drive and make make opportunities equally distributed to even places like which are remotely all across India. So that's which is time and energy which has to be focused towards this vision, and we hope, and that is some or the other thing we are also trying to do that indirectly or directly, whosoever are present over here and we people care about it. So yes,
I think it's a very good point, and what co-living and co-working spaces have always been a facilitator and an enabler. And
exactly.
now we need to see how we are enabling people, not just with infrastructure but also with knowledge. I think this is going to be a major takeaway for me from this whole conversation.
Yeah, obviously, we at co-living and co-working, why we started as a urban nomads, we started because we wanted opportunities to be equally distributed, and we wanted people to have as much exposure as much as possible, so that they get to learn about technologies. People are saying that they are not even unable to recognize what is email and what is Instagram. They're totally, the information is not there, lack of information is totally there. So we want to bridge that gap and provide as much exposure as possible, and let them know what are the quality skill sets which they can gain, so that they become empowered by such skill sets and become self-sustainable. That's the major goal and major objective.
One little thing that I would like to add here is, so it's not just the education factor that's missing. When we talk about the contrast in India, it's also the reluctance to change, the reluctance to the patterns that people have created. That things, these are X. I could go to, I could change just to a certain level. Getting into it, they see a lot of gap between what's happening in the back end of technology, other than Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It's such a gap between them. They don't see that it's right here in front of them. So what I would like to target later on in my journey is to create that acceptance to change towards technology. That is what's missing in India right now. But of course, with the deep penetration of even these apps, TikTok, so even the creator aspect of development aspects is going deeper down into villages now, where people have started studying how to edit videos, how to record videos, how do you market stuff. And I think TikTok has done a brilliant job in that, to breaking that privileged sector who knew how to use technology in their own benefits to the rural and the countrysides.
I can add something here, like a little story. So basically, I am, if you want to call me the ambassador for Malta, I am Mr. Digital Nomad. I stand for this because I opened the first co-living house there and the first co-working space, simple as that. And then we have a little bit of people following what we do just because it's interesting. And then, of course, we had to shut down. Nothing is happening because of COVID. So I used this energy basically to kickstart a social initiative called Invisible Hands. So we helped old people in need. This is what we did. And it just worked out because people knew what I was doing, even though I'm a foreigner in Malta, because I'm German actually. And they trusted me so much that this worked out, and so many people joined as volunteers and helped with this. So we all should also see this. If I am the ambassador for a small city in India, and then I create this community, I can use this to do things which help for the social good. Yeah, so those things, they can't be quantified, but it happens. yeah, this is just one thing what I want to add about social impact.
I think Daniel, it's the passion that keeps us going, particularly in the co-living, co-working space domain. It's the passion towards community that's the first thing before anything. Also, I would like to add here that we after this COVID, we are just being catapulted into Industrial Revolution 4.0, which was not due until at least 10 years, and there is a totally a new set of expertise and skills that people need, and the thinking that which worked fine just a couple of days back has gone obsolete overnight. So there is definitely a lot of skill upskilling that people need, and co-living, co-working spaces can definitely take a lead in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also see it like this. Yeah.
And we are also, in the same way, we are planning to build this as a remote hub. We see many people are getting fired, and at the same time, we have, network of influential digital nomads and startups, who can hire these fired people by, upskilling them and enabling them, make them remote ready in some or the other way. That is also, kind of. Vision we also want to cater during this time as well.
Cool.
I think it's been a great session having views from a top-down view and a down-up view, and it's been great talking to everyone.
But I'm really surprised about the energy coming from India. I mean, I saw it. I think it's the biggest co-living market in the world. I think it's the biggest one. Just because it was there before, and there is a huge need for this. But also, I have the feeling right now, not a lot of things are going on in this whole digital nomad scene. There's a lot of hype, like really hyped. We are all gurus now, and we all, energy, but nothing down to earth. So I see a huge chance there for India, because what you do, I never saw so many people with the same shared values in one chat. Like they all try to promote each other, or I don't know, and it's just like bored. Like I'm bored of this. So it's really nice to see a new movement here, which is down to earth and honest. So yeah.
So back in 2018, Daniel, I was talking to Goa government. I was advising them on, making Goa a digital nomad hub or whatever. And they always had some weird ideas that people should come and they should spend $5,000. And I was like, that's not what nomads do. The reason maybe 60% people become digital nomads is they want to take advantage of cost arbitrage, and then remaining 30-40% maybe they really want to be in Asia or whatever. And now that we are going through COVID, I've spoken to some government officials, and now they're back to earth. They're like, okay. You must have seen that because you were planning a space here, and
actually, I had my flight ticket booked to Goa. It was mid 2018, and I already, spoke to a hostel a lot, and we wanted to make this happen. And then I realized this is so stupid. This is not the way how to go forward, because how should I start? I mean, I know the Indian culture because I was living in Bangalore for 1.5 years, but how should I start co-living in a foreign country? Like how? It took me 3 years in Malta. So in India, it will take me 3 years. And so this is not the way how to scale. Longer. The police will come, they will shut me down, and how things work. And then, so this is stupid. So I don't think the way how to scale a community is by having physical places. You can do this with a lot of money, with a lot of investment, for sure you can do it. But then you need to charge super high prices, and this is, so I think there needs to be a different way. Like basically just to send the people to Goa into co-livings or into hostels or into a hut for 300 rupees. That's fine. Yeah.
I think, Daniel, with this newfound landscape, it will be easier for you to,
Exactly.
take a flight to India and
Land
just,
directly to urban nomads, and then they can
yeah.
things for
Yes.
Welcome
I
to the
will,
new,
honestly, I want.
welcome to the new world order.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice, guys. Thank you for speaking to
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
everyone for joining in, and we hope that you had a great session and some great insights from global leaders and experts over there. And thanks for your time, Daniel. Thanks, Mayur. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was really insightful, and I
Yeah.
learned something new today. So.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad. Ciao.
Shalom.
Ciao.
Namaste.